While visiting her husband's grave, a millionairess finds twin children sitting on the tombstone, alone and scared. When she questions them, she discovers a devastating secret. The children are, in fact, his daughters. In shock, she has to decide what to do, but her reaction surprises everyone by revealing something even more unexpected. What happens next changes her life and that of her two children forever. If this story interests you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Tell us which city you're watching us from and we'll keep going. The afternoon sun painted the city sky with shades of orange and pink when Sophia parked her car at the Consolação Cemetery. The place, with its ancient trees and imposing monuments, had always seemed like an oasis of peace amidst the chaos of the metropolis. But today, as every day since William's departure, the silence weighed on her shoulders like a lead blanket. Sophia straightened her black dress, a habit she had maintained even months after her husband's death. Her heels echoed along the stone paths, marking a rhythm she knew by heart. 15 steps to the right, 23 ahead, and there it was, the white marble tomb, where the man who had been the center of her universe for so many years lay. "Hello, my love," she whispered, placing a bouquet of white lilies on the headstone. Her fingers traced the gold letters that spelled out William's name. "I miss you. Home. Life. Everything feels so empty without you." The wind whispered through the leaves, as if nature were responding to her lament. Sophia closed her eyes, letting the memories wash over her. She remembered William's smile, the sparkle in his eyes when he closed a big deal, the warmth of his embrace on cold winter nights. William had been more than a husband. He had been her rock, her advisor, her best friend. As a renowned businessman, he had built an empire that Sophia was proud to be a part of. Now, without him, she felt adrift, a shadow of the strong, confident woman she once was. "How do I move on, William?" she asked the silence. "How do I rebuild a life that has always revolved around you?" The cemetery remained silent, offering only the distant song of birds as a response. Sophia sighed, feeling the weight of loneliness that had accompanied her since the fateful day she had received the news of the accident that had taken William. As she stood there, lost in thought, a sudden movement caught her attention. At first, she thought it was just a leaf blowing in the wind, but then she heard it, a soft, almost inaudible sob. Intrigued and a little apprehensive, Sophia stood up, her eyes scanning her surroundings. That was when she saw them. Two small figures huddled behind a nearby grave. Children, she realized with a start. Two identical girls, no more than 4 or 5 years old. "Hello?" Sophia called softly, taking a step toward them. "Are you lost?" The girls, upon hearing her voice, came out of their hiding place. Their little faces were stained with tears, and their eyes— Sophia felt her heart skip a beat. Those eyes, a deep, piercing blue, were identical to William's. Mommy?" one of them stammered, her voice shaking with fear and hope. Sophia froze, unable to process what she was hearing. Her mind raced, searching for a logical explanation for what was happening. These children couldn't possibly be referring to her. She'd never had children of her own. She and William had decided to postpone parenthood in favor of their careers. I think you're confused, dears," Sophia said, trying to remain calm. "I'm not—" But before she could finish her sentence, the two girls ran towards her, hugging her legs tightly. Sophia felt the heat of their trembling bodies, the desperation in their touch. "Please don't leave us," the other girl begged, looking up at Sophia with teary eyes. "We'll wait just like Aunt Olivia said." The name Olivia echoed in Sophia's mind like a distant bell. She didn't know any Olivia, but something about the name disturbed her deeply. Her heart racing and her mind racing, Sophia crouched down to the girl's level. Up close, the resemblance to William was even more striking. The shape of his face, the contour of his lips, even the small mole near his left ear that they both had exactly like her late husband. What are your names?" Sophia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Emma," one of them replied. "And I'm Hannah," added the other. Emma and Hannah. Two names Sophia had never heard before, but now seemed to carry the weight of the world. In that moment, looking into the eyes of those scared, alone children, Sophia felt like her life was about to change forever. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the graves. The cemetery, once a place of reflection and mourning, now seemed to vibrate with a new and frightening energy. Sophia knew she couldn't leave the children there, alone and helpless. But taking them with her would open a door to a world of questions she wasn't sure she was ready to face the answers to. With a deep sigh, Sophia made her decision. "Come with me," she said, holding out her hands to the girls. Let's go home." As they walked toward the car, Sophia took one last look at William's grave. The marble headstone, once a symbol of finitude, now seemed to hold secrets that threatened to unearth much more than memories. The sky was darkening quickly, as if night wanted to swallow the last vestiges of that surreal day. Sophia helped the girls settle into the back seat, their small minds oblivious to the storm of emotions stirring in the heart of the woman who had unknowingly just become the center of their lives. As she drove through the city streets, Sophia wondered what tomorrow would bring. One thing was certain: the life she knew was behind her, buried along with William's secrets in that cemetery. The future, uncertain and frightening, waited on the horizon, promising challenges she had never imagined she would face. Sophia's apartment, an elegant duplex in the heart of Jardins, had always been her refuge. Now, as she opened the door with Emma and Hannah hot on her heels, the familiar space felt strangely hostile. The white walls, once a symbol of sophistication, now felt cold and impersonal. "Come in, girls," Sophia said, her voice betraying a mixture of nervousness and concern. The twins, still holding hands, took hesitant steps into the apartment, their curious little eyes taking in every detail. Sophia led them into the living room, where a large portrait of William dominated one of the walls. When they saw the image, the girls' faces lit up. "Daddy!" Emma exclaimed, pointing to the painting. Sophia's heart skipped a beat. Hearing that word, "Daddy," addressed to William by two children she hadn't even known existed until a few hours ago, was surreal. It was as if the ground beneath her feet had turned to quicksand. "Did you know William?" Sophia asked, trying to maintain her composure. Hannah nodded vigorously. "He came to see us all the time. He brought us gifts and took us for walks. In the park." Each word was like a stab in Sophia's chest. While she spent lonely nights believing William was away on business, he was building a secret life, a parallel family. "I'm hungry," Emma murmured, tugging lightly on the hem of Sophia's skirt. Pulled from her tumultuous thoughts, Sophia forced herself to act. "Sure, dear, let's see what we have in the kitchen." As she prepared a simple snack for the girls, Sophia couldn't help but notice how familiarly they moved around the space, as if they had been there before. Did William bring them here when she traveled? The thought made her stomach turn. After lunch, exhausted from the excitement of the day, the twins fell asleep on the living room couch. Sophia covered them with a blanket and watched them for a long moment. As they slept, they seemed so innocent, so oblivious to the whirlwind that their presence had unleashed. With the girls finally asleep, Sophia allowed herself to break down. Sitting on the kitchen floor, her back against the cold cabinets, she let the tears flow freely. Tears of anger, of confusion, of betrayal. Her phone vibrated, bringing her back to reality. It was a message from her brother, Michael. "Belinia, are you okay? You disappeared after the visit to the cemetery. We're worried." Sophia stared at the screen, unable to formulate a response. How could she explain the inexplicable? How could she tell her family that the William they all idolized had a secret life? Deciding that this conversation could wait, Sophia stood and walked to William's office. The room, which she had barely touched since his departure, still carried his scent, a mix of aftershave and leather from the old books he collected. With trembling hands, Sophia began to rummage through the drawers of her desk. She needed answers, some clue that might explain Emma and Hannah's existence. At the bottom of a drawer hidden beneath a pile of documents, she found an envelope. Inside were photos of William with the girls at various times, birthdays, walks in the park, even a photo of them on the beach. In all of the images, William smiled in a way Sophia hadn't seen in years, a genuine smile full of joy. The last photo on the envelope made her gasp. It was a picture of William hugging a red-haired woman. On the back was an inscription, "Olivia and I, New Year's. Eve 2019, Olivia," the name the girls had mentioned at the cemetery. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place with a dull thud in her heart. Sophia slumped into William's chair, the photos spread out on the table like evidence of a crime she didn't know had been committed against her. Her mind whirled, trying to reconcile the man she had loved for so many years with this stranger in the photographs. A soft cry from the living room brought her back to the present. One of the girls, she still couldn't tell them apart, was having a nightmare. Without thinking, Sophia ran into the room, her instincts overcoming her confusion and hurt. "Shh, it's okay," she whispered, stroking the little girl's hair. "I'm here." The words were out of her mouth before she could process them. "I'm here." But why? Why did she care about the comfort of these children who were living proof of William's betrayal? While she was calming the girl, Sophia found herself in front of the mirror in the living room. The image reflected in her eyes surprised her, a woman who seemed simultaneously lost and determined, broken and strong. In her arms, the little girl snuggled, seeking protection. It was at that moment that Sophia realized it didn't matter how or why these children had come into her life. They were here now and they needed her. The anger, the confusion, the grief, all of that would have to wait. The day was beginning to dawn, the first rays of sunlight filtering through the cracks in the curtains. Sophia knew that with the light of day would come questions, decisions and challenges that she never imagined she would have to face. But for now, in that moment, suspended between night and day, between the past she knew and the future she was uncertain of, Sophia made a silent promise. A promise to herself, to the girls and somehow to William. "We'll get through this together," she murmured, hugging the sleeping child close. "Somehow, we'll find a way." The reflection in the mirror showed a new Sophia, emerging from the ashes of her former life. A woman who, even though she was hurt and confused, was ready to fight. For what, she wasn't sure yet, but the fight had begun, and there was no turning back. The sound of the doorbell echoed through the apartment, pulling Sophia out of a restless sleep. She got up from the couch where she had fallen asleep hugging the twins and looked at the clock, 9:30 in the morning. Her heart raced as she remembered the events of the previous night. When he opened the door, he was met with the worried face of his brother, Michael. "Belinia, you scared us so much. Why didn't you answer my messages?" He stopped abruptly when he noticed the dark circles under his eyes and the troubled expression on his sister's face. "What happened?" Before Sophia could respond, a noise coming from the living room caught Michael's attention. His eyes widened as he saw the two girls, rubbing the sleep from their eyes, sitting on the couch. "Who are they?" he asked, his voice a mixture of confusion and suspicion. Sophia took a deep breath, knowing there was no way to put off this conversation. "Michael, we need to talk. It's complicated." Over the next few minutes, Sophia recounted the events at the cemetery, the shocking discovery about William's double life, and the dilemma she now found herself in. With each word, Michael's face contorted in a mixture of disbelief and anger. "That's absurd, Sophia," he exclaimed, trying to control the volume of his voice so as not to frighten the girls. "William wouldn't do that. There must be some mistake." Sophia shook her head sadly. "I wanted to believe that too, Michael, but look at them. They look just like William." Michael turned to look at the twins, who were now playing silently with some pillows. The resemblance was undeniable, and it seemed to hit him like a punch to the gut. "My God," he muttered, running his hand through his hair in frustration. "What are you going to do?" I don't know," Sophia admitted, her voice breaking. "They don't have anyone, Michael. Their mother abandoned them in the cemetery." Michael's gaze hardened. "Sophia, you can't possibly be thinking of keeping them. They're the fruit of William's betrayal, a constant reminder of how he deceived you." Michael's words hit Sophia like a slap in the face. She knew he was voicing the thoughts she herself had had throughout the night. But as she looked at Emma and Hannah, Something inside her rebelled against the idea of abandoning them. They're just innocent children, Michael. They didn't ask to be born into this situation. Her brother looked at her with a mixture of pity and frustration. What will the family say? Have you thought about this? How are we going to explain this situation to Mom, to our friends? The mention of their mother made Sophia shudder. Mrs. Liz, a traditional and proud lady, would be devastated to learn of the betrayal of the son-in-law she so admired. "I know it's complicated," Sophia said, trying to remain calm, "but I can't just ignore their existence. I need to, at the very least, make sure they're okay." Michael sighed heavily, looking at the girls and then back at his sister. "You've always been too soft-hearted, Belinia, but this is too much even for you." At that moment, Emma timidly approached Sophia, tugging on the hem of her blouse. Mommy, we're hungry." Michael's look on his face when he heard the child call his sister Mommy was a mixture of shock and disapproval. Sophia, on the other hand, felt her heart clench at the girl's innocence and trust. "Sure, dear, let's make you something to eat," Sophia replied, giving her brother a challenging look. As Sophia busied herself in the kitchen, Michael followed, her determined to continue the conversation out of earshot of the children. "Sophia, you need to think clearly," he insisted. "These girls are not your responsibility. There must be some relative of their mother's, someone who can take care of them." Sophia stopped cutting fruit for breakfast and stared at her brother. "What if there's no one, Michael? What if I'm the only person they have in the world?" The tension between the brothers was palpable. Michael had always been the protector, the older brother who wanted to spare Sophia from any suffering. But now he found himself powerless against the determination he saw in her eyes. "You're going to get hurt, Belinia," he said, his voice softening. "Every time you look at those girls, you'll remember William's betrayal." Sophia felt tears burn her eyes, but she held them back. "Maybe. But I'll also remember that I did the right thing, that I didn't abandon two innocent children when they needed someone the most." The silence that followed was broken by the sound of small footsteps. Hannah walked into the kitchen, her blue eyes so similar to William's, looking curiously from Sophia to Michael. "Who are you?" she asked, her childish voice breaking the tension in the air. Michael hesitated, looking to Sophia for guidance. Seeing the uncertainty on her brother's face, Sophia took the initiative. "Hannah, this is Uncle Michael, my brother." The word uncle seemed to catch Michael off guard. He looked at the girl, then at Sophia, and something in his expression changed subtly. "Hi, Hannah," he said finally, his voice softer. It's nice to meet you." At that moment, watching her brother interact with little Hannah, Sophia felt a wave of determination rise within her. She knew the path ahead would be difficult, full of obstacles and trials, but she also knew with a certainty that came from deep within her soul that she could not turn her back on these children. "Michael," she said, her voice firm, "I know this is crazy. I know it's going to be hard, but I have to try. For them. For me, if only to better understand what happened to William." Her brother looked at her for a long time as if he was seeing her for the first time. Finally, he nodded slightly. "You've always been stubborn, Belinia, but you've also always been the strongest person I know." He paused, looking at Hannah, who was now curiously exploring the kitchen. "I don't agree with that, but I'll be here for you, always." Michael's words, while not complete approval, were what Sophia needed to hear at that moment, a small ray of hope amidst the storm that was brewing in her life. As she finished making breakfast for the girls, Sophia knew that many challenges lay ahead. The family's reaction, the legal issues, the emotional turmoil of dealing with William's legacy of betrayal. But for the first time since finding the twins in the cemetery, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could face it all. The day was just beginning, and with it, a new journey in Sophia's life. A journey she never imagined, but which now seemed inevitable. With Emma and Hannah sitting at the kitchen table, and Michael watching the scene with a mixture of concern and resignation, Sophia took a deep breath, preparing herself for what was to come. The life she knew was over, but a new one was just beginning. And as scary as it was, she was determined to face it head-on. The days that followed were a surreal mix of normalcy and chaos for Sophia. Between feeding the twins, trying to establish a routine, and dealing with the incessant questions about Daddy, she barely had time to process her own emotions. A week after the girls arrived, Sophia finally gathered the courage to do something she had been putting off, thoroughly searching William's office. With Emma and Hannah engrossed in cartoons in the living room, she locked herself in the room that still carried the essence of her late husband. Every drawer opened, every folder examined was like reopening a wound. Business documents were mixed with personal mementos, tickets from concerts they'd attended together, birthday cards she'd given him over the years. Through it all, Sophia searched desperately for some clue, some explanation for William's double life. It was then, hidden behind a row of books on the bookshelf, that she found a small wooden box. With trembling hands, she opened it, revealing a set of letters all addressed to Olivia. Sophia hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. Reading those letters meant invading an intimate space that William had kept hidden from her. But the need to understand, to find answers, overcame any hesitation. The first letter, dated 5 years ago, made Sophia choke up. "My dear Olivia, I know what we're doing is wrong. I know I'm betraying Sophia's trust, but I can't deny how I feel about you. These moments we've stolen together are the happiest of my life. One day I promise we'll find a way to be together openly. With all my love, William." Sophia's tear-stained words seemed to mock her. 5 years. William's affair with Olivia had been going on for 5 years when the twins were born. How could she be so blind? Immersed in her grief, Sophia barely heard the small knock on the office door. She quickly wiped away her tears and hid the letters. "Come in," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Hannah walked in timidly, her blue eyes, William's eyes, filled with concern. "Mommy, are you crying?" The word mommy still sounded strange coming from this child who until recently had been a complete stranger. But at that moment it brought Sophia a strange comfort. "No, dear," she lied, forcing a smile. "I was just remembering a few things." Hannah came closer, hugging Sophia's legs. "Don't be sad. Daddy always said that smiles drive away sadness." The innocent comment struck Sophia like an arrow. How many times had William said something similar to her? It was disconcerting to see how he had shared parts of himself with this other family. "You're right, Hannah," Sophia said, stroking the girl's hair. "How about we go do something fun?" "Where's your sister?" "Emma's trying to make her stuffed dog talk," Hannah replied, laughing. "She says she's going to be a ventriloquist when she grows up." Sophia couldn't help but smile. In such a short time, she had already begun to notice the differences in personality between the twins. Emma was the dreamer, always making up stories and playing games. Hannah, on the other hand, was the observer, always paying attention to details and other people's emotions. Leaving the office hand in hand with Hannah, Sophia came across a scene that made her stop. Emma was sitting on the couch, hugging her stuffed dog, staring at William's portrait on the wall. "Daddy will be back soon, won't he?" Emma asked, her voice small and hopeful. Sophia's heart broke. How could she explain her loss to such young children? How could she tell them that the father they loved so much would never come back? "Emma, honey," Sophia began, sitting down next to the little girl. "Remember we talked about Daddy going to a very special place?" Emma nodded, her eyes still fixed on the portrait. "But he always came back from his trips. Why is it taking so long this time?" Sophia took a deep breath, gathering strength to have this difficult conversation once more. "Sometimes, my love, people go on a very long journey, so long that they can't come back, but that doesn't mean they stop loving us." Hannah, realizing the seriousness of the moment, climbed onto the couch and hugged her sister. "It's like Aunt Olivia said, remember? Daddy is now a star in the sky, watching over us from up there." The mention of Olivia made Sophia shudder internally, but she kept her composure. "That's right, Hannah. Daddy will always be watching over you, even if you can't see him." The twins were silent for a moment, absorbing the words. Then Emma asked something that caught Sophia off guard. "And you, Mommy? Do you also love Daddy like a star in the sky?" The innocent question brought to the surface all the conflicting emotions Sophia had been trying to suppress. Love, anger, longing, betrayal, they all swirled together in a whirlwind in her chest. She hesitated, searching for the right words. I love the memories I have with Daddy, and I love you both, who are a little piece of him here on Earth. The girls seemed satisfied with the answer, but Sophia felt a lump in her throat. How could she explain the complexity of her feelings to children who only knew the unconditional love of their parents? At that moment, the doorbell rang, breaking the tension of the moment. Sophia stood up, grateful for the interruption. When he opened the door, he came face to face with Ethan, the social worker who had been assigned to follow the twins' case. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Sophia," he greeted, his gentle smile contrasting with the seriousness in his eyes. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything. I've come for our scheduled visit." Sophia felt butterflies in her stomach. With everything that was happening, she had completely forgotten about the social worker's visit. "Of course, Ethan," she said, forcing a smile and opening the door wider. "Please come in." As Ethan walked in, greeting the twins with a friendly wave, Sophia couldn't help but think about how her life had become a tangle of emotions, secrets, and responsibilities she never imagined she would have to face. William's portrait on the wall seemed to be watching her, a silent reminder that the past always finds a way to echo in the present. And now, with Ethan there to assess her ability to care for the girls, Sophia knew she was about to face yet another challenge. In her new complicated reality, Ethan settled into the armchair in the living room, his gaze scanning the room. The twins, curious about the visitor, approached timidly. "Hello, girls," he said with a warm smile. "Remember me? I'm Ethan. I'm here to see how you're settling into your new home." Emma, always the outgoing one, stepped forward. "Hi, Uncle Ethan. Want to see my new drawing?" As the children interacted with Ethan, Sophia watched nervously, aware that every detail was being scrutinized. The social worker asked subtle questions, observed the dynamics between the girls and Sophia, and took discreet notes on his tablet. After a few minutes, Ethan turned to Sophia. "Miss Sophia, can we talk in private for a moment?" Heart-pounding, Sophia nodded. "Girls, why don't you go play in your room while I talk to Mr. Ethan?" Once they were alone, Ethan took on a more serious demeanor. "Ms. Sophia, I understand that this is an extremely delicate and unusual situation. How are you handling it?" Sophia hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "It's been challenging, but I'm doing my best to provide a stable, loving environment for the girls." Ethan nodded understandingly. "I can see that there is a bond forming between you two. However, I must ask, have you considered all the legal and emotional implications of taking custody of these children?" The question hit Sophia like a bucket of cold water. She knew she was acting more on instinct than planning. "To be honest, Ethan, I'm taking it one day at a time. I know there's a lot to consider, but right now my priority is the girls' well-being." The social worker made a few more notes before continuing. "I see. What about the birth mother, Olivia? Is there any information about her whereabouts or intentions?" Sophia felt a knot in her stomach when she heard Olivia's name. "I haven't had any contact with her. All I know is what the girls told me and some things I found among my husband's belongings." Ethan raised an eyebrow, puzzled. "I see, Ms. Sophia, I need to be clear. The girls' legal situation is complex. Without a formal waiver from the birth mother or a court order, your position as guardian is precarious." Ethan's words weighed heavily on Sophia. She knew she was treading on uncertain ground, but hearing it from a professional made it all the more real and frightening. "What do you suggest?" she asked, her voice betraying a slight tremor. "For now, we will continue to monitor the situation," Ethan replied. "But I strongly suggest you seek legal advice. And, Ms. Sophia," he paused, his gaze softening, "take care of yourself as well. The children need you to be strong and stable." After Ethan left, Sophia found herself deep in thought. The conversation had brought up issues she had been avoiding facing. That night, after putting the girls to bed, Sophia found herself back in William's office. The letters she had discovered earlier were still hidden behind the books. With a deep sigh, She picked them up, determined to face the truth, no matter how painful it was. As she read the letters one after the other, William and Olivia's story unfolded before her eyes. What had begun as a passionate affair had blossomed into something deeper. William spoke of plans for the future, of his desire to start a family with Olivia. One letter in particular caught Sophia's attention. Dated just a few months before the twins were born, William wrote, "My beloved Olivia, the news of the pregnancy filled me with joy, but also with fear. I know I promised to leave Sophia and start a new life with you, but things are more complicated than we imagined. The company is going through a difficult time, and a divorce now could be disastrous. I ask you to be patient. Once things settle down, I will fulfill my promise. You and our children are my future, my true home. With all my love, William." Tears streamed freely down Sophia's face as she absorbed the impact of his words. William had not only cheated on her, but he planned to leave her. Their entire marriage, the years they had spent together, had been a lie. In the midst of her grief, Sophia heard a noise coming from the girls' room. Quickly wiping away her tears, she went to check. Emma sat on her bed, hugging her favorite teddy bear, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. "What's wrong, my love?" Sophia asked, sitting down next to the girl. "I had a bad dream," Emma whispered. "I dreamed that Daddy went away again and never came back." Sophia's heart sank. How could she comfort Emma when she herself felt so lost and betrayed? "Come here," she said, pulling the little girl into a tight hug. "Daddy will always be with you in your heart, and I'll always be here, no matter what." As she rocked Emma back to sleep, Sophia found herself making a silent promise. No matter what William had done, no matter how dire the situation, she would not abandon these children. They had already lost too much. The next morning, determined to take some concrete action, Sophia made two important calls. The first was to Dr. Mia, a family law attorney recommended by her brother Michael. The second call was to Dr. Helen, a therapist she had met years ago but had never had the courage to see. Sophia knew she would need professional help to navigate the emotional turmoil she found herself in. As she watched the twins play in the living room, oblivious to the complications of the adult world, Sophia felt a mixture of fear and determination. The road ahead would be difficult, full of legal and emotional obstacles. But looking at Emma and Hannah, she knew she had no choice but to move forward. William's portrait on the wall seemed to watch her, a constant reminder of the past she could not change. But now Sophia was determined to build a future, not just for herself, but for the two small lives that had unexpectedly become the center of her world. With a deep sigh, Sophia prepared herself to face the day. The revelations of the previous night still weighed heavily on her heart, but she knew she couldn't afford to succumb to the pain. The girls needed her, and she was determined to be the strength they needed. The sound of the twins' laughter echoed through the house, a bittersweet reminder that amidst the chaos and pain, there was still room for joy and hope. And in that moment, Sophia decided that no matter what the future held, she would fight. With all her might to protect this small spark of happiness she had found amidst the ashes of her former life. Dr. Mia's office was an elegant and welcoming space, with bookshelves lining the walls and a panoramic view of the city. Sophia sat in the chair across from the lawyer, her hands fidgeting in her lap. "So, Miss Sophia," Dr. Mia began, adjusting her glasses, "your brother Michael has given me a brief background on the situation, but I'd like to hear all the details from you." Sophia took a deep breath and began to recount the events of the past few weeks. As she spoke, she felt as if she were reliving every moment. The shock of discovery, the emotional turmoil, the growing attachment to the girls. Dr. Mia listened intently, making occasional notes. When Sophia finished, the lawyer leaned forward, her gaze serious. "Miss Sophia, I'm not going to lie to you. The situation is extremely complex from a legal standpoint. Without a formal waiver from the biological mother or a court order, your position as guardian of the girls is temporary at best." Sophia felt a knot in her stomach. "And what are our options?" "Well, we can file for temporary custody immediately. That will give you some legal protection while we look for a more permanent solution. In parallel, we need to locate Olivia. Her cooperation, or failing that, Her proven inability to care for the children will be crucial to your case. The mention of Olivia's name made Sophia shiver. The thought of confronting the woman who had been her husband's lover was disturbing, but she knew it was necessary. What if Olivia wants the girls back? Sophia asked, her voice betraying the fear she felt. Dr. Mia sighed. That's a possibility we need to consider. Legally, she has priority as the biological mother. However, the abandonment of the children plays into her hands. Besides, the courts always prioritize the best interests of the children. Sophia nodded, trying to absorb all the information. What should I do now? For now, continue to care. For the girls, as you have been doing, I will prepare the paperwork for the temporary custody application. In the meantime, I suggest you keep a detailed journal of all your interactions with the children, expenses, routines, anything that demonstrates that you are providing a stable and loving environment. As Sophia left Dr. Mia's office, she felt simultaneously more prepared and more apprehensive. The legal reality of the situation was daunting, but having a plan of action gave her a sense of purpose. Her next stop was the office of Dr. Helen, the therapist. The contrast between the two environments was striking. While the lawyer's office exuded professionalism and formality, Dr. Helen's office was welcoming and relaxing, with soft colors and a peaceful atmosphere. "Welcome, Sophia," Dr. Helen greeted, indicating a comfortable sofa. "How are you feeling today?" Sophia hesitated, unsure where to begin. Honestly? Lost? Confused? Sometimes I feel like I'm living someone else's life. The therapist nodded understandingly. It's natural to feel this way when faced with such drastic changes. Let's start from the beginning. Tell me about the moment you met the girls. Throughout the session, Sophia found herself venting not just about recent events, but about her entire relationship with William. The unmet expectations, the lonely moments even when they were together, the constant feeling that something was missing in their marriage. "You know what's weird, Dr. Helen?" Sophia said, silent tears streaming down her face. "Part of me is furious with William, betrayed beyond words, but another part is grateful." "Thank you?" the therapist asked softly. "Yes, grateful that despite everything he gave me Emma and Hannah. They're like a gift I never knew I wanted, but now I can't imagine living without." Dr. Helen smiled gently. "Sophia, what you're experiencing is a profound form of love. It is the kind of love that transcends logic, that takes us by surprise. It is normal to feel confused, even guilty about these contradictory feelings." "But how can I move on?" Sophia asked, her voice breaking. "How can I be what these girls need when I'm so broken myself? The healing process is not linear, Sophia. There will be good days and bad days. The important thing is that you are here, seeking help, trying to understand your feelings. That is already a huge step in the right direction." By the end of the session, Sophia felt emotionally exhausted but also lighter. Having a safe space to express her deepest feelings was liberating. Arriving home, Sophia found Michael playing with the twins in the living room. The sight, her brother, initially so resistant to the idea of girls, now laughing and having fun with them, warmed her heart. "Hey, Belinia," Michael called, noticing her arrival. "How were the meetings?" Sophia joined them on the living room rug. "Enlightening, difficult, but necessary." Emma, noticing the melancholy tone in Sophia's voice, came closer and hugged. "Huh, don't be sad, Mommy. Do you want me to sing the song Daddy always sang when we were sad?" The girl's innocent offer brought a smile to Sophia's lips, even as her eyes filled with tears. "I'd love to, my love." As Emma hummed a soft melody, Hannah snuggled into Sophia's other side. Michael watched the scene with a mixture of admiration and concern for his sister. In that moment, surrounded by the unexpected love of these children and the quiet support of her brother, Sophia felt a surge of determination. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with legal and emotional challenges. But there on her living room floor, with two little lives relying on her for protection and love, Sophia knew she would do anything to keep this makeshift family together. Emma's song echoed softly through the room, a bittersweet reminder of the man who had left, but also a symbol of hope for the future. Sophia closed her eyes, allowing herself just for a moment to believe that everything would be okay. William's portrait on the wall seemed to watch over the scene, a silent reminder of the past that could not be changed. But now, in the voices of the children and the warmth of their embraces, Sophia began to glimpse a future that, while different from what she had imagined, was full of possibility and love. The following weeks brought a near-normal routine for Sophia and the twins. Mornings were filled with hearty breakfasts, afternoons in the park, and cozy nights with bedtime stories. However, beneath the surface of this apparent normalcy, Sophia's anxiety grew. One sunny Saturday afternoon, while the girls were playing in the backyard, the doorbell rang. Sophia opened the door to find Ethan, the social worker, with a serious expression on his face. "Miss Sophia, I'm sorry to show up unannounced," he said, stepping into the house, "but we have a situation that needs your immediate attention." Sophia's heart raced. "What's wrong, Ethan?" Ethan hesitated for a moment before answering. "Olivia has been located. She wants to see the girls." The news hit Sophia like a punch in the stomach. She knew this day would come, but she didn't expect it to be so soon. "When?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "She requested a meeting for tomorrow," Ethan replied. "I know it's sudden, but legally, we can't deny her the right to see her daughters." Sophia nodded mechanically, her mind spinning with the implications. How would the girls react? How would she herself deal with this? "Sophia?" Hannah's voice came from the backyard. "Who are you talking to?" Ethan gave Sophia a knowing look. "Maybe we should get the girls ready now. I'll be here tomorrow to oversee the meeting." After Ethan left, Sophia gathered the twins in the living room. Her heart ached as she saw their innocent, smiling faces, unaware of the coming storm. "Emma, Hannah," she began, her voice shaking. "Remember when we talked about your mommy, Olivia?" The girls nodded, their wide eyes fixed on Sophia. "Well, she wants to see you guys tomorrow." The silence that followed was deafening. It was Emma who broke it, her voice small and confused. "But you're our mommy now, aren't you?" The girl's words hit Sophia like an arrow. I love you both more than anything, my little ones, but Olivia is your biological mother. She brought you into this world." Hannah, always the perceptive one, noticed the anguish in Sophia's eyes. "Are you going to send us away?" "No," Sophia exclaimed, pulling them both into a tight hug. "Never. No matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. Always." That night was long and restless. Sophia could barely sleep, her mind racing with scenarios about the next day's meeting. When the sun finally rose, she got up exhausted, but determined to be strong for the girls. The meeting was scheduled to take place in the park near Sophia's home. Ethan arrived early, going over the rules and offering words of encouragement. At 10 o'clock sharp, a red-haired woman approached. Sophia felt her heart sink as she recognized Olivia from the photos she had found among William's belongings. "Hello," Olivia said, her voice shaking slightly. "I'm Mommy!" Emma cried, running towards Olivia. Hannah, more hesitant, held Sophia's hand tightly. What followed was an emotional roller coaster. Olivia hugged Emma tightly, tears streaming down her face. Hannah, after a few minutes, also approached shyly. Sophia watched the scene with a mix of conflicting emotions. On one hand, her heart broke at the obvious bond between Olivia and the girls. On the other, a part of her couldn't help but feel anger and resentment toward the woman who had been her husband's lover. After an hour that seemed like an eternity, Ethan signaled that time was up. The girls said goodbye to Olivia with tight hugs and promises of more visits. As Olivia pulled away, Sophia noticed something in her eyes, a mixture of love, guilt, and determination. "Sophia," Olivia said, turning to her, "can we talk in private for a moment?" With a heavy heart, Sophia nodded. The two women walked away a little, leaving the girls with Ethan. "I know you must hate me," Olivia began, her voice low and thick with emotion, "and you have every right to. What William and I did, it was wrong on so many levels." Sophia remained silent, waiting for Olivia to continue. "But those girls they are my life, and I made a terrible mistake by abandoning them. I was lost, desperate after William left, but now Olivia paused, taking a deep breath. Now I want to do the right thing. I want my daughters back. The words hit Sophia like a bolt of lightning. She had known this moment would come, but the reality was far more painful than anything she could have imagined. Olivia, Sophia began, struggling to maintain her composure. I understand your feelings, but the girls have been through so much. They need stability. And I can give them that now, Olivia argued. I have a steady job, I have a home. I can be the mother they deserve. The debate continued for several minutes, with each woman presenting her arguments. In the end, it became clear that a legal battle was inevitable. When Olivia finally left, Sophia felt exhausted and emotionally drained. The girls ran to her, hugging her tightly. You still love us, right? Hannah asked, her eyes full of concern. Sophia knelt down, reaching the girl's level. More than anything in the world, my loves. More than anything. That night, after putting the twins to bed, Sophia found herself back in William's office. Looking at his portrait on the wall, she couldn't help but feel a mixture of anger and sadness. Why, William? She whispered into the silence. Why did you put us in this impossible situation? As tears silently streamed down her face, Sophia knew the real battle was just beginning. But looking at the photo of the twins on her desk, a recent drawing of the three of them together, with the word family written in colorful letters, she found the strength to carry on. No matter what lay ahead, Sophia was determined to fight for the love for the family she had found in the ashes of her previous life, and most of all, to fight for the two little souls who had stolen her heart and given new meaning to her existence. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Sophia's love for the twins was unshakable. And with that love as her compass, she would weather any storm that came her way, hoping that in the end she would find her rainbow. The days following her meeting with Olivia were tense. Sophia was torn between trying to maintain normalcy for the girls and preparing for the upcoming legal battle. Visits to Dr. Mia, her lawyer, became more frequent, and sessions with Dr. Helen, her therapist, became more intense. One particularly stressful afternoon, Sophia received an unexpected call. Sophia? This is Alex, William's partner in the company. Her heart raced. Alex had always been William's right-hand man in business, but since his passing, their contact had been minimal. Hello, Alex. Did something happen? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Sophia, we found some documents in William's personal safe. I think you need to see them. An hour later, Sophia was in Alex's office, staring at a thick folder on the desk. William left specific instructions for this to be delivered to you in case anything happened to him, Alex explained, visibly uncomfortable. With trembling hands, Sophia opened the folder. Inside, she found legal documents, bank statements, and, to her surprise, a letter addressed to her in William's handwriting. Dear Sophia, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer there. There's so much I need to tell you, so many explanations I owe you. But words will never be enough to make up for the pain I know I've caused. Yes, I had an affair. Yes, I have 2 daughters with Olivia. It was a mistake that started as a momentary weakness and turned into something I didn't know how to control or end. But I want you to know I never stopped loving you. You were always my safe haven, my companion, my best friend. Guilt and shame consumed me daily. I know I have no right to ask for anything, but I beg you, take care of my daughters. They are innocent in this mess I created. I left a bank account in their names with enough funds to guarantee their future and education. Sophia, you have always been the strongest and most compassionate person I have ever known. I know I am asking the impossible, but if anyone can, turn this terrible situation into something positive, it is you. Forgive me if you can. And know that despite my mistakes, my love for you has always been true. Forever yours, William. Tears streamed freely down Sophia's face as she finished reading. It was a mixture of anger, sadness, and a strange form of relief. Finally, some answers. Alex cleared his throat, bringing her back to reality. Sophia, there's one more thing. William left a clause in his will. The majority of his assets and his share of the company will only pass to you if you take over legal custody of Emma and Hannah. The revelation hit Sophia like a bolt of lightning. It was as if William, even after leaving, was still manipulating the situation. This is emotional blackmail, she muttered, still dazed. Alex nodded understandingly. I know, and legally we can contest it. But I thought you should. No? As Sophia left the office, she felt as if she were carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. William's letter, the financial revelations, the clause in the will, they all swirled in her mind, competing for attention. Arriving home, she found Michael playing with the girls in the garden. The scene, so domestic and loving, contrasted dramatically with the turmoil inside her. "Aunt Belle," Hannah cried, running to hug her. "Look what Uncle Michael taught us." The twins did a little impromptu dance, laughing and spinning. For a moment, Sophia allowed herself to smile, momentarily forgetting the troubles that awaited her. Later, after putting the girls to bed, Sophia and Michael sat on the porch, a bottle of wine between them. "So what did Alex want?" Michael asked, filling their glasses. Sophia sighed deeply before reporting everything she had discovered. Michael listened in silence, his expression alternating between anger and concern. "My God, Belinia," he said finally. That's a lot to process." "I know," she replied, taking a long sip of wine. "And the worst part is, a part of me feels relieved. Relieved to know that William still loved me in some twisted way." Michael took his sister's hand. "And what are you going to do now?" Sophia looked up at the starry sky, searching for answers in the constellations. "Honestly, I have no idea. Fighting for custody of the girls seems like the right thing to do. But what about Olivia? She's the biological mother. She has rights." "And you?" Michael asked softly. "What are your rights? Your right to move on, to have your own life?" The question hung in the air, heavy and insistent. Sophia closed her eyes, letting the tears finally fall. "I love them, Michael," she whispered. "I love those girls as if they were my own. The thought of losing them, it hurts more than any betrayal from William." Michael hugged his sister, letting her cry on his shoulder. "Then fight for them, Belinia. Fight with everything you have." That night, lying in bed, Sophia reflected on the path life had laid out for her. Just a few months ago, her biggest dream was to have children with William, to build the perfect family. Now she found herself fighting for two daughters who were, biologically, the result of her husband's betrayal. Fate, she thought, has a peculiar sense of humor. Before she fell asleep, Sophia made a decision. Regardless of William's will, regardless of the money or the company, she would fight for custody of Emma and Hannah. Not because William asked her to, not out of some twisted sense of duty, but because those girls had become her world. The battle would be uphill, she knew. Olivia would not give up easily, and the legal system favored birth mothers. But Sophia was determined. She would face every obstacle, every challenge, with the strength that came from the unconditional love she felt for these two little souls who had come into her life so unexpectedly. With this resolution in mind, Sophia finally fell asleep, dreaming of a future where Emma and Hannah grew up happy and safe, calling her mother not out of obligation, but out of choice and love. The road ahead would be difficult, but Sophia was ready to walk it. For now she knew with absolute certainty that some battles are worth fighting no matter the cost. The days following the discovery of William's will were an emotional roller coaster for Sophia. Every joyful moment with the twins was followed by a wave of anxiety about the uncertain future that awaited them. On a sunny Saturday morning, Sophia decided to take the girls to the zoo and attempt to create more happy memories amidst the turmoil. As she watched Emma and Hannah excitedly running from one cage to the next, their laughter echoing through the air, she was startled by a familiar voice. "Sophia?" She turned to find Ethan, the social worker, holding the hand of a boy of about 8 years old. "Ethan, what a surprise to find you here," Sophia said, genuinely surprised. Ethan smiled a little awkwardly. "I'm on duty, actually. This is Luca," he introduced the boy beside him. "We're having a day out while we find a family for him." Sophia's heart sank when she heard this. Luca looked at the ground, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. "Hello, Luca," Sophia said, bending down to the boy's level. "Are you enjoying the zoo?" Luca shrugged, still not making eye contact. "It's cool, I guess." Just then, Emma and Hannah came running back, excited to tell Sophia about the monkeys they had seen. Upon noticing Luca, the girls immediately included him in their excitement. "Do you want to see the monkeys with us?" Hannah asked, extending her hand to Luca. To Sophia and Ethan's surprise, Luca accepted, a small smile appearing on his face for the first time. As the children walked away a little, still under the watchful eye of the adults, Ethan turned to Sophia. "You have a gift, you know," he commented. "Luca has had a hard time connecting with people since he lost his parents. This is the first time I've seen him smile in weeks." Sophia felt a surge of empathy for the boy. It must be so hard for him. Ethan nodded sadly. "Yeah, and unfortunately, older children are less likely to be adopted. Most families prefer babies or toddlers." Ethan's words echoed in Sophia's mind for the rest of the day. Even after they said goodbye and headed home, she couldn't stop thinking about Luca and all the other children who, like him, longed for a home. That night, after putting the twins to bed, Sophia found herself back in William's office. Looking at his portrait on the wall, she felt a mix of emotions: anger, longing, confusion. "What would you do, William?" she murmured into the silence. "How would you deal with all this?" It was then that her eyes fell on a small box on the shelf, one she had never noticed before. Intrigued, Sophia opened it, finding inside a USB flash drive with a simple label, "For Belle." Her heart racing, she inserted the flash drive into her computer. On the screen appeared William's face, clearly recorded weeks before his departure. "Hi, Bella," he began, his voice carrying a wave of emotion. "If you're seeing this, it means I'm not there anymore, and you found out about Emma and Hannah." Sophia felt tears begin to form, but she forced herself to continue watching. "I know I have no right to ask anything of you," William continued, his voice cracking. "But I know your heart, Belle. I know your capacity to love, to forgive. Those girls, they are innocent in this whole mess I've created. They need you." William paused, visibly moved. "I've made a lot of mistakes, Belle, mistakes I can't undo. But if there's one thing I've done right in my life, it's choosing you as my wife. You've always been better than I deserved." William's words touched Sophia deeply. It was as if, even after his departure, he could still touch her heart. "Take care of them, Belle. Love them as I know you can. And if you can, forgive me. Not for my mistakes, but for not being the man you deserved." The video ended, leaving Sophia in a whirlwind of emotions. She cried, allowing herself to feel all the pain, the anger, and surprisingly, the love she still felt for William. When she finally calmed down, Sophia made a decision. Picking up her phone, she dialed a familiar number. "Hello, Dr. Mia? It's Sophia. Sorry to call so late, but I need you to prepare all the necessary documents. I'm going to fight for final custody of Emma and Hannah." On the other end of the line, the lawyer expressed her approval. "I understand, Sophia. We will begin the procedures immediately. But I must warn you, it will not be easy." "I know," Sophia replied, her voice firm, "but they're my family now, and family is worth any fight." After hanging up, Sophia went to the girls' room. Watching them sleep peacefully, she felt a wave of love and protection so strong that it almost knocked her over. "I promise," she whispered, "that I will do everything in my power to give you the home and love you deserve." That night, lying in bed, Sophia reflected on the day's events. Her encounter with Luca at the zoo, William's video, her decision to fight for custody of the girls. It all seemed to be coming together in a way she couldn't explain, but she could feel it. As sleep enveloped her, Sophia had a fleeting vision of a future unlike any she had ever imagined, a family defined not by blood, but by love. A family that could grow and expand in unexpected ways, embracing not only Emma and Hannah, but perhaps other children who, like Luca, desperately needed a home. With that comforting thought, Sophia fell asleep, ready to face whatever challenges the dawn would bring. The custody battle for the girls would be just the beginning of a much larger journey, a journey of love, forgiveness, and redemption. The months following Sophia's decision to fight for custody of the twins were a roller coaster of emotions and legal challenges. Court hearings became a regular part of her life, as did endless meetings with Dr. Mia to prepare her defense. on Tsu. A particularly tense afternoon, after yet another grueling hearing, Sophia was at the park with the girls, trying to create a moment of normalcy amidst the chaos. As Emma and Hannah played on the swing, she noticed a familiar figure approaching, Olivia. Sophia's heart raced. Since the custody case began, her meetings with Olivia had been limited and always in the presence of lawyers. "Hello, Sophia," Olivia said, her voice tired. "Can we talk?" Sophia nodded, keeping her eyes on the girls as Olivia sat down next to her on the bench. "They look happy," Olivia commented, watching the twins laugh as they played. "They are," Sophia replied, unsure of where the conversation was going. Olivia sighed deeply before continuing. "Sophia, I came to tell you that I'm giving up custody." The statement took Sophia completely by surprise. "What? But why?" "Because it's the right thing to do," Olivia replied, tears forming in her eyes. "Seeing them now, so happy and well cared for, I realized that my love for them means wanting the best, even if that doesn't include me." Sophia was silent for a moment, processing what she had just heard. "Olivia, I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything," Olivia said, wiping away a tear. "Just promise me that you'll love them and care for them like you have been doing. And maybe one day when this is all behind us, you'll let me be a part of their lives in some way." Olivia's words touched Sophia deeply. For the first time, she saw beyond the other woman and saw only a mother who loved her daughters enough to give them up. "Olivia," Sophia began, her voice soft, "I promise they will always know about you, about how much you love them. And when the time is right, if they want me to, I won't stop you from being a part of their lives." The two women stood there side by side, watching the girls play, united by a love that transcended past resentments and hurts. In the weeks that followed, the legal process took a surprisingly amicable turn. With Olivia withdrawing her custody petition, the way was clear for Sophia to legally formalize her relationship with the twins. On the day of the final hearing, the courtroom was packed. Michael was there, as were several friends who had supported Sophia throughout her journey. Even Ethan, the social worker, showed up to testify on Sophia's behalf. When the judge finally banged the gavel, declaring Sophia as Emma and Hannah's legal guardian, the room erupted in applause. The girls, who had been brought into the courtroom for the final moment, ran into Sophia's arms, screaming with joy. "Now you're our real mommy," Emma exclaimed, her eyes shining. "I always have been, my love," Sophia replied, hugging them tightly. "I always have been, and I always will be." The celebration that followed was a mix of joy and reflection. As friends and family filled Sophia's home, congratulating her and spoiling the girls, she couldn't help but think about the journey that had brought her to this point. Late that night, after putting the twins to bed, Sophia found herself back in William's office. Looking at his portrait, she felt a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. "Thank you," she whispered to William's image. "Thank you for giving me these wonderful girls, though." At that moment, Michael walked into the office, 2 glasses of champagne in his hands. "Cheers to the new official mommy," he said, handing Sophia a glass. She smiled, accepting the drink. "Thank you, Michael, for everything. I couldn't have done it without you." Michael hugged his sister affectionately. "You're stronger than you think, Belinia. You always have been." As they sipped their champagne, Sophia shared with her brother a thought that had been growing in her mind. "You know, Michael, this whole experience that made me realize something." "What?" he asked curiously. "That maybe, just maybe, I have more love to give. I've been thinking about Luca, that little boy we met at the zoo, and all the other children who need a home." Michael's eyes widened in understanding. "Are you thinking of adopting more children?" Sophia nodded slowly. "Not right away, of course. I need to settle in with the twins first, but in the future, who knows?" Michael smiled, hugging his sister again. "If anyone can do it, it's you, Belinia." That night, as she lay in bed, Sophia reflected on the incredible path life had laid out for her. From a betrayed, childless wife, she had become a mother to 2 adorable girls, with her heart open to possibly welcoming more children in the future. William's portrait on the bedroom wall, which had once held so many conflicting emotions, now seemed to smile in approval. Sophia fell asleep with a smile on her lips, grateful for the past that had brought her here and hopeful for the future that lay ahead of her. The journey had not been easy, and she knew that new challenges would come. But with Emma and Hannah by her side, and with love as her compass, Sophia felt ready to face whatever fate threw her way. The chapter of pain and betrayal had closed. A new chapter, full of love, hope, and possibilities, was just beginning. A year had passed since Sophia had officially gained custody of Emma and Hannah. Life had found a new rhythm, full of school routines, ballet lessons, afternoons in the park, and cozy nights of bedtime stories. The house, once a symbol of her life with William, was now overflowing with children's laughter and colorful drawings on the walls. One Saturday morning, while preparing breakfast, Sophia was surprised by a call from Ethan, the social worker. "Sophia, sorry to bother you on the weekend, but we have an urgent situation." The tone in Ethan's voice immediately put her on alert. "What's wrong, Ethan?" "Remember Luca, the boy we met at the zoo? Well, the family that was taking him in temporarily can't keep him anymore. We urgently need a temporary home, and I thought of you." Sophia felt her heart race. She had thought about Luca many times throughout the year, wondering how he was doing. "Ethan, I don't know if I'm ready. The girls—" "I understand your hesitation," Ethan interrupted gently, "but it would only be for a few weeks, until we find a permanent solution. You've been an exemplary foster mother, Sophia. Luca needs someone like you right now." After a moment of silence, Sophia made her decision. "Okay, Ethan, when is he arriving? Can it be this afternoon?" The rest of the day was a rush. Sophia prepared the guest room, explained the situation to Emma and Hannah, who were excited about having a temporary big brother, and tried to calm her own nerves. At 3 sharp, the doorbell rang. Ethan was there with Luca at his side. The boy looked thinner and sadder than Sophia remembered. "Hello, Luca," she said softly, kneeling down to his level. "Remember me?" Luca nodded shyly. "You're the lady from the zoo." At that moment, Emma and Hannah appeared behind Sophia, their eyes wide with curiosity. "Luca, this is Emma and Hannah. Girls, this is Luca. He's going to be staying with us for a while." The twins, with their characteristic innocence, immediately bombarded Luca with questions and invitations to play. To Sophia's surprise, a small smile appeared on the boy's face. The first few weeks were an adjustment for everyone. Luca was quiet and reserved, clearly carrying the weight of his past experiences. Sophia worked hard to make him feel at home while balancing the twins' needs. One night, about a month after Luca arrived, Sophia found him crying silently in his room. "Luca," she called softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "What's wrong, honey?" The boy hesitated for a moment before breaking down. "Why doesn't anyone want me? Why can't I have a real family like Emma and Hannah?" Sophia's heart broke. She pulled Luca into a tight hug, letting him cry on her shoulder. "Luca, listen to me," she said, pulling back to look him in the eye. "You are an amazing child, smart and loving, and you will find your perfect family, I promise." Luca looked at her, his eyes full of hope and fear. What if I've already found it?" The implication in the boy's words struck Sophia like a bolt of lightning. She had always known deep in her heart that her connection with Luca was special, but hearing it from him so openly caught her off guard. That night, after all the children were asleep, Sophia called Michael. "Bruce," she said as soon as he answered, "I think I'm going to adopt Luca." There was a moment of silence before Michael responded. "Wow, Belinia, are you sure? 3 kids is no joke." "I know," she replied, her voice firm. "But he belongs here. Michael, I can feel it." The process of adopting Luca was long and at times challenging. There were visits from social workers, psychological evaluations, and countless court hearings, but Sophia was determined. Finally, almost a year after Luca arrived as a temporary guest, the judge brought down the gavel, officially declaring the adoption. The celebration that followed was even bigger than when Sophia gained custody of the twins. The house was filled with friends, family, and even some of the professionals who had been with Sophia on her journey from the beginning. In a quiet moment during the party, Sophia found herself alone on the balcony, watching the stars. She thought about William, about how life had changed drastically since his departure. The pain of his betrayal was still there, a scar that would probably never completely fade. But now that pain was outweighed by the joy and love her 3 children brought into her life. "Mom," Luca's voice brought her back to the present. It was still strange to hear him call her that, but it sounded more and more right. "Yes." "Dear?" Luca stepped closer, his eyes shining with emotion. "I just wanted to say thank you for choosing me, for giving me a family." Sophia pulled the boy into a tight hug, tears of happiness streaming down her face. "No, Luca, thank you for completing our family." In that moment, with Luca in her arms and the sound of Emma and Hannah's laughter coming from inside the house, Sophia felt a deep peace. The life she had now was nothing like the one she had planned years ago. It was more challenging, more chaotic, but infinitely more rewarding. The future still held many challenges. Raising 3 children alone would not be easy, but Sophia knew that with love, determination, and the support of her network of friends and family, she could face anything. As they walked back to the party, hand in hand, Sophia made a silent promise to herself and her children. No matter what happened, they would face it together, as the family they had become. 5 years have passed since Luca's adoption. Sophia's home, once a symbol of her past life with William, is now a vibrant home full of life and love. Emma and Hannah, now 14, are in the throes of their teenage years, while Luca, 18, is preparing for college. On a sunny Sunday morning, Sophia watched her family gather around the breakfast table. Luca was excitedly discussing his plans to study law, inspired by his adoptive mother's journey. The twins, although physically identical, had developed distinct personalities. Emma dreamed of being an artist, while Hannah showed a growing interest in science. "Mom," Luca called, bringing Sophia back from her thoughts. "Do you think William would be proud of us?" The question took Sophia by surprise. Over the years, she had been open with the children about William, about the complexity of his story, but it was still rare for them to bring up the subject. "I'm sure he does, dear," she replied after a moment of reflection. "He made mistakes, but deep down he always wanted the best for you." Emma, always the emotional one, added, "What about Mommy Olivia? Do you think she thinks about us?" Sophia smiled gently. Over the years, she had kept her promise. Olivia made occasional visits, and though the situation was initially awkward, over time, they found a balance that worked for everyone. "I'm sure she will, my love. In fact, she called yesterday. I'd like to visit next month, if that's okay with you." The twins exchanged excited glances, while Luca nodded with an understanding smile. After breakfast, as the children dispersed to their activities, Sophia found herself alone on the porch, reflecting on the path life had laid out for her. She remembered the day she found Emma and Hannah at the cemetery, the pain of William's betrayal, the legal battles, and finally Luca's arrival. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the doorbell. Opening the door, Sophia was surprised to see Ethan, the social worker who had played such a crucial role in her journey. "Ethan, what a wonderful surprise," she exclaimed, inviting him inside. Ethan smiled, but there was a seriousness in his eyes that Sophia recognized immediately. "Sophia," he began after settling into the room, "I came because I have a somewhat unusual request." She nodded, encouraging him to continue. "We have a delicate situation. A 6-year-old girl, Diana. She recently lost her parents and has no other relatives. Normally we would place her in a foster home, but..." He hesitated. "Something about her reminded me of you, of your situation years ago." Sophia's heart raced. She knew where this conversation was going. "Ethan, 3 teenagers are already a challenge, and..." I know, he interrupted gently. "I'm not asking you to adopt her, just to get to know her. Maybe she can be a temporary home until we find a permanent solution." Sophia closed her eyes, remembering how Luca had arrived in a similar way. Part of her wanted to say no, that her family was already complete. But another part, the part that had learned to open her heart in ways she never imagined, was curious. "Can I think about it?" she finally asked. Ethan nodded understandingly. Of course, but if you can, I'd like you to meet Diana tomorrow. No strings attached, just a date. After Ethan left, Sophia gathered the children together to discuss the situation. To her surprise, everyone was incredibly receptive to the idea. "Mom," Luca said, his voice thick with emotion, "you gave me a chance when I needed it most. How could we deny that to another child?" Emma and Hannah enthusiastically agreed, already making plans to redecorate the guest room. The next day, Sophia found herself in the same park where years ago she had had crucial conversations about her daughter's future. Ethan was there, standing next to a small girl with curly hair and big, sad eyes. "Diana," Ethan said softly, "this is the Sophia I told you about." The girl looked at Sophia with a mixture of fear and hope that broke her heart. Kneeling down to Diana's level, Sophia smiled gently. "Hello, Diana. It's a pleasure to meet you." To her surprise, Diana stepped forward and hugged her tightly, as if Sophia were a lifeline in a turbulent sea. In that moment, feeling Diana's little arms around her, Sophia knew. Just as she had known with Emma, Hannah and Luca, she felt that this little lost soul belonged to her family. Weeks turned into months, and months into years. Diana, initially shy and reserved, blossomed in the loving environment of Sophia's family. The official adoption took place on the 3rd anniversary of her arrival, a celebration that brought together not only her immediate family, but the entire support network Sophia had built over the years. On a quiet afternoon, 10 years after Diana's arrival, Sophia found herself once again in the office that had once belonged to William. His portrait was still there, but now it was just one of many photographs that adorned the walls. Graduation photos, family trips, precious moments, captured over the years. Taking the portrait of William, Sophia smiled softly. "Thank you," she whispered, "for giving me the chance to discover a strength I didn't know I had." A noise at the door made her turn. Luca was there, now a young lawyer, specializing in family law and adoption. "Mom," he said, a smile playing on his lips, "the girls are asking if you'll join us for family dinner. Diana made your special pasta." Sophia placed the portrait back on the shelf and smiled at her son. "Sure, dear. I'll be there in a minute." As she followed Luca into the dining room, where the rest of the family waited, Sophia reflected on the incredible journey she had been on. From a betrayed, childless wife, she had become the matriarch of a diverse and loving family. A family formed not by blood, but by choice, by love, and by destiny. The sound of her children's laughter greeted her in the dining room. Emma, now a budding artist, was showing off her latest sketches. Hannah, a biotechnology researcher, was excitedly discussing her latest discovery. Diana, the youngest of the family, now 16, was proudly serving the dinner she had prepared. Sitting at the head of the table, Sophia looked at each of her children in turn, her heart overflowing with love and gratitude. The life she lived now was nothing like what she had planned all those years ago. It was richer, more complex, and infinitely more fulfilling. "So, Mom," Diana asked with a mischievous glint in her eyes, "when are you going to give us another brother or sister?" The table erupted in laughter, and Sophia couldn't help but join in. "You never know, dear," she replied with a smile. "Our family has always had a way of growing when we least expect it." As the meal progressed, filled with lively conversation and plans for the future, Sophia felt a deep peace. The circle was complete. The pain of the past had been transformed into a present filled with love and a future filled with possibilities. And there, surrounded by her children, each a story of redemption and love, Sophia knew she had found her true destiny. Not as the wife of a successful businessman, but as the mother of a family built on love, compassion, and the courage to open her heart to the unexpected. Dinner continued into the night, filled with laughter, stories, and shared dreams. And Sophia, at the center of it all, smiled, grateful for every step of her journey that had brought her here, to this perfect moment, with the family she never knew she always wanted.